Have you ever looked at a graph of our global economy? It's a beautiful, soaring line, always heading up. GDP, growth, progress. But what happens when you put another graph next to it? The one showing global resource depletion, or maybe rising global temperatures. That line is also soaring up. Can they both keep rising forever? It's a simple, terrifying equation. Our economic system demands endless growth, but we live on a finite planet. The planet is starting to say no. The question is, are we listening? So, why are we so obsessed with growth? It's the engine of our current system. The core logic of capitalism is straightforward. Companies need to generate continuous profit. To do that, they need to constantly expand their markets. This means selling more stuff, which requires using more resources and producing more waste. It's a cycle that has to get faster and faster every single year. You see this pressure everywhere, from the relentless focus on quarterly earnings reports to the way politicians from all sides treat GDP growth as the ultimate measure of national success. If GDP is up, we're winning. If it stagnates, it's a crisis. This growth imperative isn't just an idea. It's a structural necessity built into the foundations of our global economy. We've created a system where standing still is the same as failing, forcing us to run faster and faster on a treadmill that's chewing up the planet. But here's the catch. The planet has rules. Scientists at the Stockholm Resilience Center have identified 9 critical planetary boundaries. Think of them as the Earth's vital signs. They include things like climate change, biodiversity loss, and the chemical cycles of nitrogen and phosphorus. These are the life support systems that keep our world stable and habitable. The problem is, our relentless economic expansion is pushing us past these safe limits. We've already crossed several of these boundaries. We're well into the danger zone for climate change. Extinction rates are 1,000 times higher than normal, and our agricultural practices have completely distorted the nitrogen and phosphorus cycles, creating massive dead zones in our oceans. This isn't an accident. It is a direct consequence of an economic model that treats the Earth's life support systems as an infinite resource to be exploited for growth. The ecological economist Herman Daly pointed this out decades ago. An economy is a subsystem of the Earth's larger ecosystem, and it can't grow beyond the limits of its host. Now, you might be thinking, what about green technology? Can't we just innovate our way out of this? This is the central promise of what's often called green capitalism. The key idea here is decoupling, the belief that we can separate or decouple economic growth from environmental impact. Proponents will point to charts showing that we're getting more efficient. We're producing more GDP for every ton of CO2 we emit. This is called relative decoupling, and it's true. It is happening. But here's the fatal flaw. It's not enough. While we're getting more efficient, the overall scale of our economy is growing so fast that our total resource use and total pollution are still going up. This is absolute decoupling, and it's the only thing that actually matters for the planet. We haven't achieved it, and many scientists believe it's impossible. Why? Because of something called the rebound effect. When we make cars more fuel efficient, people tend to drive more. When LEDs make lighting cheaper, we light up more spaces. Efficiency gains often lead to more consumption, not less, wiping out the environmental benefits. The promise of decoupling has so far been a myth that allows us to feel good while continuing business as usual. Let's talk about one of the sneakiest tricks in the economic playbook: externalities. In economics, an externality is a cost or benefit that affects a party who did not choose to incur it. When a factory pollutes a river, the cost of that pollution, the dead fish, the contaminated drinking water, the health problems for people downstreams, an external cost. The factory doesn't pay for it. Society and the environment do. Our current system is designed to maximize internal profits by externalizing as many costs as possible. Pollution, carbon emissions, waste disposal, habitat destruction, these are treated as free or cheap inputs in the production process. Now, some economists say we can fix this by pricing the externalities, for example, with a carbon tax. The idea is that if companies have to pay for their pollution, they'll pollute less. It sounds good in theory, but in practice, it's often too little, too late. The political will to set prices high enough to truly change behavior is rarely there. The fundamental drive of the system remains the same: privatize the gains and socialize the costs. Capitalism isn't just bad at dealing with externalities. It is actively driven to create them. So if endless growth is the problem, what's the solution? This is where we have to start thinking about some radical, and for many, uncomfortable ideas. One is the concept of a steady-state economy, championed by thinkers like Herman Daly. The goal isn't to grow forever, but to maintain a stable, sustainable level of population and consumption that fits within the planet's ecological limits. A related, and more urgent idea for wealthy nations is degrowth. This isn't about austerity or recession. It's a planned and equitable downscaling of production and consumption in the richest countries to bring their economies back into balance with the living world. The focus shifts from accumulating more stuff to enhancing human well-being: more leisure time, stronger communities, better public services, and a healthier environment. Instead of chasing GDP, we could pursue goals like those in the donut economics model. which aims to meet the needs of all people within the means of the living planet. These ideas challenge the very core of our economic beliefs, but they force us to ask a critical question. What is an economy actually for? So here we are, at a fundamental crossroads. The conflict isn't between jobs and the environment. It's between an economic system that demands infinite growth and the finite planet we all depend on. This is a systemic problem, and it requires systemic solutions. Simply buying a reusable coffee cup, while a nice gesture, won't fix an economy designed to consume a planet. We need to fundamentally rethink the purpose of our economy. Should it be to endlessly maximize profit and consumption, or to provide a dignified, prosperous, and sustainable life for everyone? Can we, as a society, imagine and build an economy that prioritizes well-being over wealth, stability over speed, and enough over more? The conversation is just beginning. Thank you so much for watching. This is a huge topic, and we've only scratched the surface. If you want to dive deeper, I encourage you to research terms like deep growth, steady-state economics, and donut economics. What do you think? Is a world beyond growth possible? Let us know in the comments below. And if this video gave you something to think about, please give it a like and subscribe for more deep dives into the systems that shape our world. See you next time.